Hello everybody, this is Nathan on Shuffle, and I've got a new episode of New Music Friday today for you. This is August 13th, 2021, and this is my show where I give my take on the latest in prog news and give you some updates on the channel itself. So I wasn't able to do a show last week. It was my birthday weekend, and I decided to take the week off, put some other shows that I had kind of in the vault from a few months ago that I hadn't put out before, and decided to put those out instead. So I thought those were kind of fun. But now I'm back into normal mode here and doing my New Music Friday as usual. So there's a little bit of an update. I'll get to it kind of at the end. Little bit of a format change from usual, but I don't think it'll make that big of an impact to most of you. But anyways, let me get into some of the news stories that I've got here. The first thing that I really wanted to highlight and talk about is the news about Big Big Train. The cool thing is, of course, their new album came out a couple weeks ago, Common Ground, which I reviewed on the channel. Please go check out my review. I really love the album. I think it's fantastic, amongst their best material. But what's cool about it is that they've entered into the UK charts at position number 31, it looks like. It was really exciting news. I believe Grand Tour was the first album to actually place into the top 40. Came out, was at number 35, it looks like, in 2019. But this is the best chart position they've had yet. So that's really exciting. I know midweek it was a little bit higher. It was like at number 9, but once it settled at the end of the week, it ended up at number 31, which is really cool for a really big prog band. For them to make an impact on the charts is just, it really says a lot about the genre and how healthy it is. And so it's just really exciting for a band like them. I just wanted to celebrate that a little bit. Any news of a prog band really doing well out in the music field at large is something definitely worth highlighting in this little community that we have here. And so it's really cool. It says it also reached number 53 in the German album charts. So first album to chart in Germany. So it's getting a lot of wide appeal, and I think it's worthy of it. I know not everyone is as enamored with it as me, but I'm really proud of the achievement. I think it's a really excellent album. I'm recommending it to everyone I know close to me. Of course, I recommended it on the channel, and so I just wanted to press that even more and hope that all of you guys are enjoying that album and checking it out if you haven't heard it yet, because it's really fantastic and I think shows off the band at the best of their abilities, and really strong songwriting, really strong combination of a lot of elements that they're known for. So really happy about that, and I plan to do a Big Big Train album ranking show pretty soon. So I've been listening to all their albums and just been really high on the band lately. And so, of course, it's obvious, I'm sure, that I'm a big super fan of the band. So it's just been a fun time to be able to talk about them in this time of excitement for their new album. So just wanted to mention that. Another bit of news, I believe this was news probably more so the previous week, but I saw that the new Marillion album went up for pre-order, and there's not really any details about it yet. They tend to do these kind of early pre-order campaigns because they have such a loyal fan base that's willing to pre-order their album before getting really a lot of the details and information. So there isn't much to discuss here, but I just thought I'd point people towards the album pre-order if you're really into Marillion and looking forward to the new album. Looks like they're pretty close, it looks like, to kind of giving some more information and details. Looks like the album is planned to come out next year, I'm assuming here. So it should be a pretty cool release. I've been talking a lot, especially on these New Music Friday shows, about my experience with Marillion, how sometimes I am conflicted. I feel like it's a band I should really love, but not sure that I do completely yet. I like certain albums, but not others. But I'm excited to delve deeper into Marillion. I even kind of want to do like an album rankings type show for Marillion sometime in the future. Probably not anytime immediately soon, but maybe around the time of this new album could be a good timing for a show like that. So maybe I'll do a deeper dive and try to reassess my appreciation for the band, which I tend to seem to do every few years or so. But definitely cool to pre-order the album. A lot of deluxe ultimate editions in the mix, of course. They're doing some touring where they might play some of the new tracks at their tour. So just cool stuff happening in the Marillion camp that I thought was worth mentioning here. There's really, like I said, the track listing hasn't been shared yet. The album cover is still being in the works and developing. So not a whole lot to chew on here, but just exciting that this is kind of the official statement that the album's coming, that, you know, they're gearing up for that excitement. And so thought it was worthy of mentioning on the show. Aside from that, I wanted to mention, of course, Transatlantic tour dates for 2022 were announced. This was like super exciting for me, so I had to mention this. You know, I'm a huge Neil Morse super fan, a huge Transatlantic super fan, and so I knew that they were playing at Morse Fest, which I've talked about here, and on Cruise to the Edge, so I was hopeful that they'd do some tour dates around those events, but was concerned it would be mostly centered on the East Coast and then probably into Europe. And luckily for me, they're actually playing a couple dates in California, including one in LA, pretty close to me. So I was able to snatch up tickets for the April 23rd date. I've snatched up 3 tickets. I'm definitely taking my best friend, who I introduced to Neil Morse, who's really a huge fan as well. He was super excited about it. And then I'm hoping to take my dad. It's kind of up in the air if he can come or not. He might have his own gig that day. He wants to leave that date open in case someone books his band, and then he'd have to be obligated to go there. So if he can't come, then I'll bring Jana along, my wife. So whatever happens, it'll be a cool crew coming along, and it should be a fun experience to be able to see this band. I really am so grateful that they're coming near me. And they have dates here in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, in Canada, Illinois, and of course over in Europe as well, in Romania, Germany, Netherlands, England, and France. So it's kind of a small group of dates here, but I think we're pretty lucky to get anything, you know. And I'm feeling a little bit like, you know, I don't want to get too overly excited because I know there's still questions about like what concerts are going to be like and what kind of restrictions there may be. But I'm hoping this is far enough out that there shouldn't be any sort of restrictions anymore. And it should be there should be able to be a way to go to a concert safely. So I'm hopeful that this will happen and that it'll be exciting. It'll be a great concert and a great time to see the new album, Absolute Universe, performed in its entirety. I'm sure they're going to play like the Absolute Universe, the big, Ultimate Edition version of it. And so that's really exciting. Some of my greatest concert experiences is going to see Transatlantic the couple times I have. I went with my best friend, Kevin, to see them on the Whirlwind tour, and we were both blown away. We still talk about it as such a magical experience. Not just the concert, but even just receiving the DVD later of the concert and reliving it. We watched it. He lives in Utah. I live here in California. At least at that time. He doesn't live in Utah anymore. But we kind of watched it at the same time, and we're like communicating with each other and re-experiencing the whole concert together. So really a cool experience of that concert. So it's exciting to get to relive that a little bit with this concert. So definitely wanted to mention that. Also, I see here that Mostly Autumn announced that they're coming out with a new album on September 24th. This is kind of similar to like the Marillion effect for me. They're a band that I hear a lot about in a lot of the same circles of a lot of the bands that I like. And I just haven't really connected totally with them yet. I like certain tracks here and there. I think the vocals are really heavenly and beautiful. They kind of have almost a more laid back, almost Pink Floyd type style. They have this folky kind of vibe on some of their records. So that, it's not really very heavy progressive rock. There's not things that are too complex and intricate, at least on the things I've heard of. So, it's a band that I'm still trying to learn to appreciate, but I know that they're a fairly big name in Prague, so I wanted to mention their new album coming out, their 14th studio release, featuring guest appearances by Nightwish's Troy Donackley and Fairport Convention's Chris Leslie. So some cool guest appearances there. It's a lengthy album. It looks like it's a double album. Looks like it's based a lot on kind of their experiences living through the pandemic. And so it should be a pretty cool studio release. And And so I'll be checking it out and seeing how I feel about it. So definitely wanted to mention it on the channel. And another cool thing I wanted to talk about, not really news, but just an interesting occurrence in the prog realm, I suppose. I love the Prog Report. It's a website podcast, that I really frequent, and they tend to have very similar tastes to mine. So I really recommend checking the Prog Report out if you haven't before. And they do this thing in August called Progust, where each day they talk about a new album, highlight an album in prog. And it's fun to kind of go through each album. I try to take some time to listen to at least some of these albums as they come out. And they usually try to tend towards albums that are a little bit more obscure or a little bit forgotten, aren't quite as big. So I've been listening to these throughout the month of August so far. And I kind of wanted to give my quick shot takes on them. Just the first 10 so far. There's been a couple more, obviously, since we're on the 13th. But I want to focus on the first batch of 10 now, and then maybe next week I'll talk about some of the later ones that have come out since. But it started with Pink Floyd, Obscured by Clouds, which was a cool one to get into because I'm more a fan of the Pink Floyd, the classic era that from Dark Side of the Moon to The Wall is really the classic period that I know of. I'm not really very aware of their earlier albums. It's just not really something I've been very interested in. So it was cool to hear this kind of earlier Pink Floyd sound. It was actually pretty nice. It has that psychedelic feel, but it was really pleasant to listen to. I think it was a really great choice. Next was Dream Theater's When Dream and Day Unite, their debut album, which I've always thought of a little lower than all the rest of their albums because they had a different singer and they have kind of this style that's a little bit feels a little more dated perhaps and kind of that 80s style. But really, it has fantastic tracks on it. And I agree, it's an underrated gem in their catalog. Really great. They came out of the gate really raring to go. There's so much great things happening in the instrumental stuff as well. Yahtzee Jam is just a classic of their catalog. So definitely a strong one. Steve Hackett, Highly Strung was next. Really nice, Steve Hackett album with some great guitar playing. Styx Cyclorama was next. I really like Styx. Of course, I love their newest album that I talked about on the channel. But this was a cool listen. Definitely has their style, that kind of poppy but, arena rock kind of style. Next was one of my favorite choices so far, Sound of Contacts, Dimensionaut, which I really love. I have it on vinyl. It's an album that maybe is a little bit more obscure and kind of passed a lot of people by, but it features, I believe it's Phil Collins' son, Simon Collins, on the vocals, and he's really a fantastic singer, and there's a lot of great progressive stuff on there. There's a little bit of maybe an 80s tinge sound, but a lot of progressiveness, and it's a really great record. Toto's Hydra was next, which I listened to and really enjoyed. I like Toto. I think it's a band that I want to delve deeper into because I love whenever I hear their stuff. Of course, maybe not totally proggy in a sense for a Progust choice, but really cool kind of pop rock feel at that time and some maybe a little bit more extended songs and some interesting stuff going on. King Crimson Islands was next. Not really my cup of tea, or however you'd say that. I really enjoy certain King Crimson songs and albums, but as a whole, they're not really my favorite band. There's a lot of kind of freeform jazz and kind of avant-garde stuff on this. I do like the title track. I think it's kind of this cool, slow, ballad-esque type thing that's really pretty and well played, great singing. But as a whole, the album just doesn't grab me. After that was one of my favorite albums that I've talked about a lot on the channel, Freehand by Gentle Giant. And I've listened lately to the great Steven Wilson remakes. It's just a fantastic, absolutely essential prog album for me. I really love that album just all the way across. It's beautiful. And then Neil Morse's One at number 9, which is one of my all-time favorite albums as a huge Neil Morse fanatic. I absolutely adore that album. I think it's maybe his best solo album, especially if you're not counting some of the Neil Morse band stuff. But it's really well crafted. It's a beautiful concept album. Definitely religious themes, but just so much interesting lyrics and interesting instrumentation, and really goes all out on the prog on several sections. And it's really well made, emotional, beautiful, but also really technical and interesting. So I really love that album. And then the last one I want to mention here is UK's Danger Money, which I'm more familiar with their debut, not as familiar with Danger Money, which was difficult to find. I don't believe it's available on most streaming services, but it's a really cool sound and kind of unique and different, especially in comparison to the debut. So definitely worth investigating more fully. So those are just some of the choices you could expect from Progust. So I recommend you check those out and, see some of the upcoming choices as well. So just wanted to highlight that and give my quick shot takes on some of those albums. The last thing I kind of want to talk about, which isn't really prog news, it's more personal news. Like I said, I had my birthday last week. It was a really fun time. I went to a record store, and I'll be doing a vinyl haul kind of video to showcase what I picked up, so I'll leave that for then. But I wanted to share, my parents gave me a really amazing gift that kind of blew me away and was something I was not anticipating, and I felt like it'd be fun to share. They gave me tickets to see the Neil Morse Band in Seattle. I was really bummed when I saw the tour dates for Neil Morse Band, and nothing remotely close to in LA or California. The closest only West Coast show was in Seattle, which is really far and didn't seem possible. So I just wrote it off that this was not going to be something I could see. But my dad, when I told him about that, because he's always asking me about upcoming concerts, and I said, well, I wish we could go to Neil Morse Band, but it's in Seattle. There's no way we could make it. Well, he bought tickets to it and is kind of going to supply the plane tickets and the hotel and all that stuff. So it's going to be a really fun experience with me, my wife, and my dad and my mom, and we should be all attending there. We're still working out the details and how we're gonna do it, but I just wanted to mention that. He even gave me this kind of fun printout for it, just to kind of give me something to open this in an envelope. So it's at the Triple Door. The concert's on Tuesday, October 12th, and I'm going to make a little trip to Seattle out of it. So should be a fun experience as long as it goes through and there's no, issues with COVID or anything like that. It should be a really fun experience. So definitely something I'll talk about on the channel when that happens. So it's exactly, well, not exactly, but close to 2 months away. So something to really look forward to for me. So I have that on the calendar, and then I have the Transatlantic concert later next year. So 2 big concert things. Really excited. Both, of course, Neil Morse related. Really, really thankful for my parents for doing that for me, and really blown away. I don't even know how to adequately thank them for this huge gift that I just wasn't anticipating. So that's really where I'm at with the news today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed some of those news stories and some of those personal stories. I do want to make a note that I'm changing things up slightly. Usually at this point I'd move into what I was calling the Prog Top 5, but I'm going to move that into its own show to kind of come out Saturday mornings. And I'm going to call it Weekly Top 5, I believe, because I want to have the freedom to showcase all kinds of music, not just specifically prog. And it's really just my rundown of 5 songs that I've really been enjoying this week. It'll lean more towards newer tracks. That's what I like to feature the most, but it could also be older tracks that I've just been enjoying because of, maybe they're from albums that I'm featuring soon on the channel, or just things I picked up on in my just typical listening. So that's going to be its own feature, and it's going to come out. I talked with my wife about it, and she kind of agreed that it is worthy of standing on its own as its own show. And in the editing process, I try to get these Friday shows out fairly quickly, and that always holds me up when I'm trying to do that put in sound clips and do the weekly top 5 at the end, or do the reactions that I did before. It really holds me up and causes a lot of issues in editing. So I'm just going to focus just on the news in this segment for the Friday shows, and then do that segment on my Saturday mornings. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. I'm kind of experimenting with it. It could change in future shows, but that's kind of what I'm planning for now. And besides that, I hope you've enjoyed some of the recent content on my channel. Like I've mentioned, I really strongly encourage to check out that Big Train review. I really had a lot of fun filming that one. I think it came out really well. Been getting a lot of good comments on it, so I'm really proud of that one. This past week I did an album review of The Who's Next, kind of in my defining albums feature. So that was a lot of fun to talk about The Who, and I've kind of been switching things up. I have an interesting defining albums to do for next month that should be pretty fun, that I'm starting to plan now. So I don't want to give too much away. Like I said, I'm going to do a Big Train album ranking show soon. Of course, later this month, I plan to cover the new Neil Morse Band album and the new Leprous album. Super excited to get those. And so a lot of fun things happening on the show. And of course, my usual Jenna Reacts and all of the other stuff that I tend to come out with. So hopefully you've been enjoying my content. I'm really grateful for my audience and for all that you guys are doing for me. I'm grateful for the comments. I also want to mention I have an upcoming collaborative show that hopefully you'll see announced sometime soon, coming tomorrow. I teased it a while back, but it just didn't happen before. There's some conflicts and scheduling problems, but it should be happening tomorrow, and so I'm really excited. I'll give a hint that it's somewhat related to this band here behind me, so should be a fun thing that I hope a lot of you will go and check out. And so that's about it for today. So thank you guys for watching, and I'm really grateful for all of the attention and for all that you guys do, as I've been saying, and please just keep enjoying the music. So thank you again. Bye.